Hello everyone. In week 2, we will explore some theories of language acquisition. It is important for language teachers to ask how students learn languages, not only because it's an important question in applied linguistics, because it directly impacts our teaching philosophy and teaching methods. Whether or not we are conscious of it, we teach based on our perceptions of language acquisition. In this week's content, you're going to learn about a number of different concepts regarding language acquisition. I would like to invite you to approach each of these concepts with this question in mind. What are the pedagogical implications of the theory I'm learning about? Here are some examples. Think of the differences between the concepts acquisition and learning. Acquisition is the subconscious familiarization with the language through natural interaction with language in authentic contexts, similar to the process by which children learn their mother tongues. Learning, on the other hand, is the formal and conscious study of a language and its rules. So based on these two concepts, if you, for instance, prefer to focus on syntax and grammar, this choice of teaching method indicates that you might believe additional languages should be learned in a structured way rather than acquired through multiple unstructured interactions with the target language. In another example, if you frequently invite native speakers to your class to participate in free conversations with your students, you actually favor an acquisition approach to language teaching. If you believe in textbooks specifically written for language learners, you prefer to select and structure the content. If you don't like textbooks and instead photocopy and share authentic texts with your students, or even have your students create their own texts, you in fact create acquisition contexts in your classes similar to those contexts in which native speakers engage with language. Now, think of these other concepts which we'll learn about this week. If you believe in a behaviorist theory of language learning, which emphasizes stimulus-response reinforcement of learning or an award and punishment approach, you'll have your students engage with a lot of drills and repetitions in the classroom. In contrast, if you have an interactionist philosophy of language learning, you will encourage your students, perhaps in pairs and groups, to communicate with each other about authentic issues and experiences. In the same way, depending if you see having knowledge of a language as absorbing more of that language or input, or generating more of that language or output, you might make different decisions when it comes to your approach to the students, because you might decide if your students want to generate or receive more language. For instance, if your approach is input-oriented, your students might engage with a lot of listening or reading in your classes, and you might actually become the main speaker in the class, if not the only. In this case, your class might become lecture-based. Additionally, if your approach is output-oriented, student conversations might dominate the class, whether in the form of pair or group work or a student presentation. Also, if your focus is on output, you might adopt a task-based approach and have your students perform language in different tasks as opposed to receiving language passively. I invite you to engage with this week's content, and while you're learning different theories of language acquisition and learning, reflect on your teaching practice and think about what language acquisition theories are already informing your teaching methods, or what new perspectives could impact your pedagogy positively.